Most financial reports are a complete waste of time. Sound harsh? Probably not something you expected to hear from me, a fractional CFO who's trying to help small business owners, but the reality is that it's true. If your team can't answer what each of these numbers mean and why do we have them, you don't have a reporting system. You're flying blind with noise and no real actionable insights. I recently dealt with this we'll call this an e-commerce owner named Jamie. Jamie had all the reports. She had the income statement, she had the balance sheet, she had the statement of cash flows, she had a bunch of supplemental marketing and otherwise reports. But every time a crisis or difficulty hit, Jamie didn't know where to look. Cash crunch, inventory nightmare, revenue catering. Her team was always scrambling. But why? Because they had data, but not true insights into that data. Jamie didn't know it yet, but she was making the same mistake that probably 90% of business owners make on a regular basis. They have a compilation of reports, but they don't have an actual financial reporting system. Today, I'm going to make sure that you have an actual system, not just some random reports. And we're going to talk about 3 keys to making sure you have better financial reporting system and you change from financial chaos to financial reporting systems. The first key is we want to make sure that we have the right metrics. Too often, businesses have pages and pages of number, but each has a reason for it, but no one can remember. I've heard it asked in meetings time and again, what is this for? Why did we calculate this? How's it calculated? Why are we having this on the report? What's the point of this? The way to fix this is we need to think about KPIs like dominoes. That means is the last domino is your end goal. That's your revenue. That's whatever the output is over here. So you want to hit 1 million in revenue in product 4. But what's the first or the lead domino leading to that final outcome? So we start by looking at our goals and asking, what are we trying to achieve? This can often be looking at our income statement and saying, what is our revenue goal and where do we need to be, right? This is a lagging indicator, meaning it is the output of an input that came before. And so we need to start thinking backwards and asking, if our revenue number is this, what impacts revenue? This is a leading indicator, leading KPI. So maybe revenue is a product of the deals that we closed. And now what comes before the deal? And so we need to keep working backwards to get to that final lead indicator, that initial input that pushes everything down the chain. So we start revenue, we go to deals, maybe it's now sales calls, maybe it's now conversion rate, sales pipeline values. You build a chain of connected KPIs and suddenly the chaos starts to make sense. We can do this working from output to input, or we can also do this working from initial input all the way to output. Brainstorm this, map this for your business, ask, what do each of these mean? How are each of these connected? And come up with a plan for how you're going to approach each of these KPI chains. Let's do an example real quick. So we talk about revenue. So when we think about what is the input to revenue, it's units sold times the price of each of those units. So then we have to think, which one of these do we want to map the chain? So let's first start by mapping units sold. So we map units sold. The inputs to units sold are these things for this, e-commerce space: website traffic, email marketing, organic search, paid search, organic social media advertising. And so then of all of those leading inputs, what is in front of those? So we would want to pick what we consider maybe the most important. And we maybe want to map all of these but at this time, we're just going to map one. And let's say social media advertising. So we have some social media campaigns. So what are the inputs to those social media campaigns? And so then we've mapped that down now all the way to that first leading indicator that is impacting revenue. So we do this for each of those leading indicators along the way. And ultimately, we come up with a KPI map of what each of these things look like and how do they impact the ultimate output over here on the other side. Not only do we do this for income statement, we can look down the income statement, we can pick out the key things that we want to map those KPIs, but we can also do this for our balance sheet. We can look at our cash, we can look at our AR, we can look at our AP, we can talk about the cash conversion cycle, we can talk about equity, we can talk about distributions. There's all these things that matter when it comes to the financial statements that we need to map from this lagging KPI, this output over here on the statement, all the way to the leading KPI, the initial input that is impacting those, or initial inputs. It may not just be one, it can be more than one as well. From a cash perspective, if we think about our investing cash flow, how do we want to reinvest in the business? And say we look at CapEx and then we look at the trucks. There's all these inputs to the trucks that determine when we're going to need to replace those trucks. And now maybe we can create a connected KPI chain where we measure things at different points in the process. KPIs are great. These metrics are great. But that alone is not enough to give you a really good financial reporting system. The next revelation is that we need to get these metrics at the right time. Even the best metrics fail if they show up at the wrong time. This means that both timeliness, how quickly we get these metrics, this is something accountants hate. I hate to say it, but accountants hate this because they like to take their time, make sure things are perfect. But the FP&A side needs to be pushing this, and accountants need to get on board with getting things on time. Also, they need to be actionable. They need to be at the right time in the cycle. If we get our marketing campaign numbers each quarter, it's now so far past when those numbers were that we can't even take any action on them. So they've got to be actionable when we're receiving them. That means they've got to be still relevant. And that's why on time is so important. So when we look and think about our numbers are going to fall into really three different categories. And those three categories are to determine which type of report they're going to fall on. So first, we have the operational metrics. Those are the daily or weekly metrics that we're looking at on a regular basis. So those marketing numbers are those operational metrics. It's sales pipeline, customer support, cash position, current sales, like the up-to-date sales, the marketing metrics. All of these things fall under that operational category and should be reported on more frequently. Next, we have the financial metrics. These are the P&L, the budget, the gross margins, the profit and loss, the trending data. This is stuff that we want to see on a monthly basis to make sure that we're on top of all of this reporting. And then last, we have the strategic data. This is the forecast. This is where we are positioning ourselves in the market. This is the long-term planning. By structuring our reports to match the natural rhythms of the business and when these metrics are important, you're making them actionable. This may also help make sure that you don't have too many KPIs. It's really easy for CEOs and CFOs and accountants to want all the data instead of being so worried about the right data at the right time. So this will give us no more month-end surprises, no more stale or unactionable insights. This timing fixes the next piece of the puzzle. This leads us to a critical question. Who needs to see what? And that leads us to the right person. Jamie, who I mentioned earlier, was dumping all of the metrics on everyone. Her sales team was getting cash flows reports. Her ops lead was buried in P&Ls. No wonder no one was acting on the data. If it's not actionable, it doesn't matter. If we don't change actions within the organization, it's not serving a purpose, and it's likely hurting our ultimate outcomes. Good data in the wrong hands is still bad data. If it doesn't change actions within an organization, it's not serving a purpose and likely hurting outcomes. Yes, I repeated it again. Your bad reporting is making you less profitable, is making your people pause, is making your people not work together. So the right person is really, really important. And this goes into two different types of roles within this right person. The first is we have the preparer of the data. It's who's responsible for organizing the data, making sure the data is valid. And then next we have the consumer of the data. We want to make sure that the consumer is the person that can actually make decisions on this data. So for the CEO or founder, that's going to be the profitability, the revenue, the high level KPIs that are high level team reporting KPIs. For the finance team, it's going to be managing the budget, managing the payables, the receivables. For operations, it's going to be labor trends, inventory turnover, efficiency ratios. For sales and marketing, it's going to be pipeline, CAC, campaign performance, marketing spend, all of these things. We want to make sure that we're getting the right data to the right people, and again, at the right time. We want nothing more, nothing less. We want to make sure we have the right mixture of those. And this concept of connected KPIs, this concept of right time and right place is what's going to allow us to actually get good reporting and create good reporting systems. 3 months after we started working, Jamie was finally going from a reactive mindset to a proactive mindset, a predicting mindset, thinking about what was in the future, actually being able to use the adjusted reporting to make better decisions. Not only her, but her teams. The sales team knew which KPIs to focus on for the week. The ops team was making faster decisions. Jamie finally had clarity at the strategic level. She didn't just have reports, she had systems. So we want to reflect back. Ask yourself, are your metrics connected? Are we thinking up and down the chain to what the input is versus what the output is? And then are we taking those connected KPIs and are we delivering them at the right time and to the right person? Take some time this week and think about these questions. Map your KPIs, think about your delivery, think about your cadences, and come back. By matching right metric to right place to right person, we're going to transform our financial reporting systems as businesses, which is going to help us be more profitable, be more decisive, and ultimately put more cash in our pockets. If you've made it this far, I want to thank you so much for watching this video. Please drop a comment. Tell me, what was your biggest financial reporting mistake? And what is one thing that you're going to change based off of this video? While you're still here, don't forget to subscribe, click that button, and until next time, keep cash flowing it.